estate of the late Colonel Robert R. McCormick. We're engaged in a project that will provide some wonderful source material for our new 1st Division Museum, which is currently under construction as we are taping these interviews. As part of the total effect in the new museum, we thought it would be of some great value to interview veterans who had experiences in World War II and to allow our visitors to share in those experiences through a number of formats. In one place, they'll have an opportunity to interactively question the veterans that we'll be speaking to so that they can learn more about the weapons and equipment and other tools of war that were present in World War II. There's no better way than to talk directly with the veterans to gain an understanding of those things. So we'll be doing some of that and also learning a little bit more from our veterans as to what it was like to be a soldier in World War II, the emotions, the feelings, and all of the things that surrounded that cataclysmic experience that we call World War II. So the purpose of the interviews will be to provide this documentary evidence that will reside in our archives but also be used within the museum. Other participant in this filming will be Command Sergeant Major Theodore Dobol. Ted Dobol was Mr. 26th Infantry, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his experiences in World War II and also in Vietnam, where he served again in the 26th Infantry. The project will encompass a number of men with, on the one hand, some very similar shared experiences, but on the other hand, I'm sure some very individual anecdotes and recollections of their service with the 1st Infantry Division.
Marker.
Scene 6, take 1. Theodore.
Framing and where's that?
And begin.
Command Sergeant Major, we're going to talk a little bit about your services with the 1st Infantry Division in World War II today. And I wondered if you could just sort of begin and relate just a few of the events of your early period leading up to your enlisting in 1938 and your eventual assignment to the 1st Division.
I would say I was always very much interested to be in the military. When I returned from Europe after departure from Poland in 1937, I asked my uncle I would like to join the Army, and he mentioned that it's not many good people serving in it, so I didn't want to discuss anymore, but I was contact one sergeant and tried to make preparation how I can get in the Army. So having some experience in Europe after 5 years belonging to the like ROTC, we have in the reserve for National Guard, but trained by regular Army non-commissioned officers and officers. So then I was good potential with good material, so I studied the test, and not only that, but finally I complete the test, and you mentioned we can't take you now because I want to go in the Foreign Service, Panama, Hawaii, or Philippines. At that time in the Army, we have a small army, I would say 37, 38. I would say, I don't think even 100,000. So you have to wait about a year. So if they're going to be opening, you'll be notified. So I was patient to wait about 6 months before I received the brown envelope and stated, the vacancy are limited to report immediately at 39 White House Street, New York. Meantime, I have a small job. I was working to pick up few change, so forth, to be available to exist. And I thank the person who owned the particular installation that I'm going to the government, the military, Army, and so forth. And eventually, matter of fact, he gave me even bonus to have a successful career. And of course, I report in White House Street, 39, New York, and swear in, so forth, and preparing to getting that time. When you go into the service, you get a variety of shots, particularly going to Panama. You better be prepared with everything else they gave you. So there were many needles in your body to get ready for, and so forth. I arrived in Panama in May, and 14th Infantry, they called the Junglers, Fort William D. Davis Canal Zone. 14th Infantry, Junglers. At one time, they served in Panama. Their crest even indicate guano. They call it chicken, Panamanian chicken, but that stayed for the service in China, the 14th Infantry. After 2 years service, I returned to States because I was planning to join the Navy. In Europe, the cream of the service was Navy. So I said, I'll try the Navy. And so when I arrived and being discharged, and I went to see the Chief Petty Officer, he said, I will take you now. However, we do not have a vacancy. You have to wait 3 months. I mentioned, I'll wait 3 months, 6 months to join the Army. I'm not going to wait 3 months. If you not take me now, that's it. The Marine Sergeant has said, soldier, join the Marines. I look at him, I said, keep it. Of course, I know the slang from the Navy. They call them boys working for the Navy. I said, no, I'm going back in the Army. So I re-enlisted for the 26th Infantry because a friend of mine came with me from Panama, Sergeant. I was corporal, but you have to have a permanent rank before you can return to States. So I left the corporal rank in Panama in a company for another individual to take my place. And so you got discharged, convenient for the government, private. So being a private again, I was assigned to 26th Infantry. And so I asked this fellow, where it's stationed? He mentioned New York, not knowing New York. New York is a big state. And after 30 days leave, I report to White House Street. They issue me 2 bags of brown bag of sandwiches. You're going to Plattsburgh Barracks. What is it? On a Canadian border. I said, never expect. I thought it was in New York City because you have a 16, 18 Infantry at that time from the 1st Division serving in an area of Wadsworth and 4J, 16 Infantry. So finally, when I arrived in Plattsburgh Barracks, and people over there were all the uniform. I came in a khaki, of course, weather beaten and sun dark up them. Everybody looked around, who was this individual arriving from tropics? But anyway, I was assigned to K Company 26th Infantry. And I was very much surprised. At that time in the States, you have a skeleton regiment. The company strength was about 60 men, and all of them possibly worked for the CMTC and reserve elements, special duty. And I was a little bit unhappy because in Foreign Service Panama, you have a company strength, 187 men, full strength assignment. So I was a little bit disillusioned, not knowing yet back what the 26th Infantry standing for will participate. With very short period of time, I gained the knowledge they participate in World War I and location of troops weather station throughout the New York area. And of course, being PS men, prior servicemen, took a test, oral test, company commander. In about 2 months, I was corporal again. PFC in about a month, and another month, I was corporal. So then I gained the history of the 1st Division with the K Company. And needless to say, with that company, I spent about 10 years until I later moved to advance to the regiment. At that time, at Plattsburgh Barracks, various phases of operation was taking place. They planned to have a ski troops. Having knowledge from Europe of skiing, we have 50 enlisted men and 3 officers. Matter of fact, my battalion commander later, he was one officer, John T. Colley, a legendary battalion commander in World War II and Korea, and 2 other lieutenants participate. 50 enlisted men and 3 officers will depart for Lake Placid for training. They issued 2 pair of skis, cross-country and short trails with weapons, 81 mortars, and all 3 rifles on trails to go out. We have some accidents where individuals have broken legs, whatnot, when you move through the forest on a trail. And anyway, but that was vigorous training for possible droppage in Norway or somewhere. That was abolished. Shortly after, came to information who would like to go to airborne. We're going to form the airborne outfit, 501st and 501st Battalion of paratroops in 1940. About 20 of us put in for transfer. And I was corporal then, and my company commander, Captain James B. Carvey, Class 39, he said, Corporal Dobol, you make yourself better with the company. But going through, I didn't mind to turn the rank and be airborne because we have some glider in Europe. So I said, well, I'll be coming from the air on the ground. Out of all those 20 put in, about 2 of them transfer, the rest of them remain. I received a letter after several months later from one fellow. They make a first drop in Panama. He had a broken both legs and he was 100% disabled. Civilian life, Army career terminate. So I just figured, well, I'll stay in infantry. So then we prepare a move from Plattsburgh to Devens, where the entire division assembled. Artillery, engineers, signal, and all the 3 regiments, because the 28th Infantry was dropped from the 1st Division, Square Division, went to Triangle Division, so it was 16, 18, 26, and everybody just looked around each other and said, who was the better soldier? And so there were scraps once in a while, scrapes in places about, but as a division, that was promoted to develop their cohesiveness, undergo North Carolina maneuvers, and so forth. I became undergoing training with mortar, 60mm mortar, on a wooden mortar, because they didn't have a model yet. One. Finally, we received this original 60 mortar to give a demonstration for the regiment. So that was quite a bit thrill to perform the duty. But meantime, everybody knew by heart the manual, which was from page to page, by heart the components, and likewise the shells which go on a 2.36. And all in all, preparation. At that time at Fort Devens, and during these maneuvers, on the North Carolina maneuvers, there was one fellow who I assist to train at Plattsburgh Barracks, as those recruits had coming in and to the regular Army, fellow by name Winthrop Rockefeller, as I was assisting the instructor to the sergeant. As they march, it's on a butt right, butt left, press on its stock, so forth. And then I give a demonstration taking apart the M1, not knowing he was a millionaire. Of course, later on maneuvers, which several months passed through, he'd also been promoted to corporal. We bivouacked together, and we discussed about his past, and he had a scar across his cheek. I asked him what that, and that was in an oil field when you have. And then we undergo to camp blending, which of course now is fort blending, training, combat training, some battalions, and we train vigorously, and from there finally the division moved to Fort Benning for baptism of fire with combination armor, artillery, and Air Force coordination. How would that turn out to be? So that was the final